Hi, I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Caffeinated Crimes.
Just blanked. Not on my name. I got distracted by something and then I just kind of forgot what I was doing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I also kind of hit it pretty. I realized you were still talking when I hit it, and I was like, "Ooh." But Zoom changed like where you hit record, so it's like I had to click
uh,
record, but then the options are down here, and I didn't want the options to
oh,
go away. I didn't know if there was like a
yeah.
timer situation.
So you're like, no, we're going now. You're good. Don't worry
We're
about
going.
it. Well, so my cousin had messaged me on Facebook Messenger about 2 weeks ago, and apparently I did not see it. And I just saw it, and I was like, oh, let me respond because she was asking for my address. So I sent her my address, and then she just responded and asked if I could share my brother's address. And I'm like, it's March. Like normally I get those like around Christmas time, like Christmas cards, whatever. I was like, maybe her kid's graduating, like he might be about that age. And then she was like, oh, it's for this other cousin's baby shower. And I was like, she pregnant? So those are all the thoughts going through my head as you were hitting
Mm-hmm.
record. And then that's why I got distracted and did not know my line. So
Yeah.
hey, hi, welcome. Happy spring.
Yes. It is the last day of March.
Yes.
So January was forever, and now
Yep.
we're just flying through the year.
Yep. We said it was going to happen. And here it is. But it's officially spring, which is so exciting,
Yes.
except we've had super cold weather here this week, which is
Except I wore a
unfortunate.
t-shirt one day, it was snowing the next, and then again
Yep.
today I was sweating.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, literally from 80 degrees. And like the next day, I think started out at like 65, 70 in the morning and then was 20 degrees and snowing by the evening. Just what?
yeah.
Wild. Yeah. Wild weather. I did have a funny story that I did not tell Courtney before we started recording because I wanted to share this gem with all of you too. So we went over to my aunt's house tonight after work to watch the UT basketball game because it is March. It is March Madness right now. And so my aunt has like her carport, so we always watch the games outside in her carport, and she has like a little like storage closet off the side of the carport. So her dog was like obsessed with this closet. Like the door's shut, the door's always shut. The dog was like sniffing around, was
What
like
was in
freaking
there?
out. So we're like, why is this dog so obsessed with this closet? And we call it the snake closet because my aunt has found a snake in there before, and so she's like, well, I'm never going back in there. Like this, that's the snake's room. He lives in there. It's fine.
Yeah.
So my cousin went in to get a chair.
And
He
there's a snake.
runs, he
Oh
runs
no.
out. He goes, "There's a fucking chicken in here."
A chicken?
Chicken.
How long has
There
the
was,
chicken been there?
well, apparently Gail thought that Romeo, her dog, had a chicken snack earlier in the week, but apparently he escaped and has been hiding in this room since then.
Oh my gosh, this poor chicken has probably been like shitting his pants every time Romeo comes outside.
Just the fact that he was like freaking out in the closet, and I was like, we should not open that door. My cousin's like, it's probably a mouse. It's fine. It's whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna get this chair. He just runs. There's a fucking chicken in here.
The way he ran over a chicken. Oh man.
And then he like, so of course we're all like trying to poke our heads in to like see the chicken, and then he like disappeared behind some stuff because like it's a storage closet, there's stuff in there. So then we couldn't find the chicken, and so then he goes in to do something, and then he just like screams and runs out of this room because the chicken was like trying to escape. So he was like running at him, and he's like ah! And like slamming the door shut because the dog was still out. So he's like, I can't have this chicken run out like while the
Yeah,
dog is
I
right
can't
here.
traumatize everyone right now.
So it was the neighbor's chicken. So we texted the neighbor. He came over and got his chicken, and took him back home. So
That is crazy. That
it
makes
was
me
so
think though,
funny.
of another story too, when you said like the snake closet or whatever. Um, they call them like drain snakes or whatever, and I have to use it all the
Mm-mm.
time because even though I collect my hair, somehow the stray
It's
hairs
still,
get down
yep, I
there.
know how that goes. Yep.
Um, and so it was like one time Kevin and I were looking for one and we like couldn't find it. So like we bought another one. So I was cleaning out under the sink and I texted him and I was like, there was a snake down here. And I did like the emoji where it's like one eye popping out because I was like, oh, like we went and spent money on one when we did have one. And like Kevin came
Uh-huh.
upstairs and he was like, where is it? And I was like, what? And he was like, where's the snake? And I was like, a drain snake. And he was like, oh. And I was like, you thank you for having
You
so
just
much confidence in
casually,
me that you think I would be casual about that.
right, just be like, there is a snake down here.
I would be
Like, sir,
screaming.
you would know if I found a snake down here.
You would know. But
Oh,
yes.
goodness.
So
So
funny. You said a
yeah, that was
chicken.
my.
That's
I know I was
funny.
like, Courtney is not going to guess where this one's going.
No, I was, especially when you said running out, and I was like, definitely a snake or like a raccoon or a mouse or a rat, not a chicken.
It was so because like after he ran out and like shut the door, we all just like what inside. I'm sorry, I should not have done that when you took us.
I know. I took a sip of my Diet Coke and it about went all over my laptop.
And then the neighbor's like, gets his chicken and they're walking out or whatever. And Millie's like, "Can I pet him?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So Millie's petting the chicken.
That chicken is like, I need a cigarette.
He's like, "Please get me home."
That chicken ain't gonna run over there again, though. Tell you what.
No, hopefully he learned his lesson.
Hopefully.
Anyway, so there's your funny story before we get into, I mean, of course, a sad story because this is a true crime podcast. It's
It's
never really
sad.
happy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And this one is gonna be, if you did not see from the title, two parts. So,
yes.
if you don't want to wait 2 weeks for the next part, one option is to sign up for patreon.com/caffeinated crimes. Little as $3 a month. You can get part two immediately. Or if you want to wait until both episodes are released, I get it. I do the same thing. So,
Hmm.
um, sources we used for this episode was the Amy Bradley is Missing documentary on Netflix. We used FBI's website. We used a Hollywood Reporter article. We used amybradleyismissing.com, and we used a um, Pajiba article. I don't actually know how to pronounce that website. I'm sorry, but. So, when Amy Bradley went missing on a cruise ship in March 1998, the family thought they would find her soon, but still 28 years later, we don't officially know what happened to Amy. So, the Bradley family lived in Chesterfield, Virginia. Ron and Iva Bradley had two kids, Amy and Brad. It does appear Brad's name was also like Ronald, the same as his dad, but he went by Brad because I was like, Brad Bradley, what's happening here? But it seems more like a nickname. Because I was
Okay,
thinking
okay.
too, I was like, because a lot of times people like Brad go by Bradley. So I'm like, is he Bradley Bradley? Like, is that his
Yeah,
name?
you're like, that's
But
an
no, his
interesting
name was
choice.
also Ronald, but he went by Brad.
Gotcha.
In 1998, Brad was dating Erin Colither. I don't really know how to say her last name, but she'd been friends with the Bradleys most of her life, and she kind of joked she was like the fifth Bradley. She was like, I'm just part of the family. Erin said there was always fun, and the house was always full of laughter. And Amy and Brad were super close, and Brad and Erin were dating also around 1998. Amy had gotten a Tasmanian devil with a basketball tattoo on her left shoulder blade. She also had a sun on her lower back, a Chinese symbol on her ankle, and a gecko lizard like on her belly button. And she also had a belly button ring. She was a basketball player, hence the Tasmanian devil with a basketball tattoo. And she was also the first woman to get a full ride to Longwood University playing basketball. And Amy really came into her own in college. So in 1998, Amy was 23 and Brad was 21. Amy had just gotten a new apartment and a new dog, and she was really excited for this like next chapter in her life. Like she'd graduated college, she was ready to kind of get into her adult life, and she had a lot of exciting things coming up. And this cruise was kind of like a big family trip. Erin said everyone seemed like really excited to go. Like Ron and Iva were both kind of like this was kind of like maybe one of the last trips we were really going to take like as a family because they are getting into their 20s. Family trips don't happen as often. And the cruise was Rhapsody of the Seas through Royal Caribbean, and Rhapsody of the Seas held over 2,000 people. It had fine dining, pools, and a lot of entertainment. And it was a 7-day cruise that started out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and would go to Aruba, Curacao, St. Martin, and St. Thomas before coming back to Puerto Rico. So hit a quite a few nice little amount of islands, which this story, in addition to stuff I've heard recently, does not make me want to go on a cruise, but I do think it would be cool when you hit like a bunch of islands like this and like every day you get to go like explore the island a little bit. I do love the idea of that.
Like, can they just have a cruise where like you're just my transportation to get from one island to the to another and not like a cruise activity
So I do think
place?
they have cruises like that. My
Okay.
sister-in-law did tell me that her boss went on a cruise where it was like you go to this like island that the cruise line owns, and you stay there at night, and then you get on the cruise that
Okay.
takes you different places. But I don't
Okay.
really know, how long,
Yeah, I would do
all that
something like
takes.
that.
But
But yeah, I kind of have no interest in a cruise, honestly. Just not for me personally. Like nothing against,
I feel like I
you
need
do
to do it
you.
once in my life. But between this story, poop cruise,
Yeah.
I don't know, guys.
Yeah. There's a
Um,
lot of things happening on cruises.
yeah. So Iva and Ron Bradley both worked for Illinois Mutual Insurance Company as insurance agents, and this company ran contests every year, and Ron and Iva were both awarded with a cruise, and they were thrilled because they could bring Amy and Brad with them. They did all have to share a cabin, which was, kind of like the size of a hotel room, but you're on a cruise with a lot to do, so it's fine. Amy was taking a lot of photos so she could enter a photo contest. Day two of the cruise was like all at sea. That was like a full transportation day. And Ron said the water was clear and beautiful. And day three was a stop on Aruba. So they rented a vehicle and drove around. And they even got like lost for a little bit. They were like, we just kind of showed up in this like desert area and we're kind of lost. But they still had a great time. And they were talking about what they were going to do the next day on Curacao and went back to the ship. So that night was the formal night on the cruise. Like cruises will do this where you're supposed to bring like a really nice dress. Everyone kind of gets dressed up and everyone goes to dinner. And there's a photographer there who took a photo of Amy. And apparently the photographer was like, "Okay, now with your boyfriend." And she was like, "No, no, no, no. That's my brother. Like don't say that's my boyfriend. That's my brother." Um,
Yeah, you're like, no, 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 no.
which I'm sure happens a lot like that where you're like, "No, no, no, no." Siblings. Um, but they took a picture together too. And these two pictures kind of became very infamous in this case and is a lot of what you'll see in this case because it is like some of the last photos of Amy. Um, and Ron said the waitstaff was really flirty with Amy, and it was almost to the joke of the table, like, hey, if you need something, like have Amy ask. If you're like, hey, like we need more ketchup, like have Amy ask, because the waitstaff is like fawning over her. And after dinner, they got changed and went to the pool deck. And there was a party that started at 10 p.m. There was a limbo contest, and it seemed like everyone was up there. And Ron actually won the limbo contest and had won a crown. So he was like, "Don't know how I did that." I'm like, this old
That's
man, not
fun.
old man, but you know what I mean? He was like, "I'm like in my
Yeah.
40s and I'm winning a limbo contest." And he got to wear a crown. And it did end up putting it on like Amy's head. And the ship did end up leaving Aruba around 1 a.m. So Iva and Ron were tired and were like, we're going to bed. But Amy and Brad decided to stay up a little bit later and went up to the disco and they had drinks and listened to music. So Brad ended up leaving the disco. And he said Amy was on like an upper floor balcony and he kind of like saw her and kind of just like motioned to her, like, hey, I'm leaving, gonna go back to the room. He did say he hung out on the deck for about like 30 more minutes and then ended up going back to the room that the Bradleys all shared. So Brad did go on the balcony, and he said about 5 minutes later, and he would guess it was maybe around 3:40 a.m. at this time, that Amy came back to the room and she came out into the balcony as well, and they were both just kind of talking. She did tell Brad that the bass player from the band had made like a physical pass at her, but she just kind of mentioned it in passing. Like she didn't make a big deal of it. She wasn't like, it made me really uncomfortable or anything, like just kind of was like, oh, I guess going along with our joke earlier, now the bass player's, hitting on me. So, and Amy said she wasn't feeling good, and so she wanted to stay out on the balcony a little bit longer. Probably nice to have that fresh air instead of the cabin. You're on a boat, you've been drinking. I feel like
Yeah.
I would be so sick.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to be in this confined small space. Like,
Hmm.
let's, yeah, get some fresh
Yeah,
air and see the sky. And yeah.
yeah. So Ron woke up around 5:30 a.m. on March 24th, 1998, and saw Brad in bed and looked around, and he said he saw Amy's legs on the balcony in the lounge chair. So he was kind of like, all right, everyone's here, we're all safe. And he went back to sleep. But at almost 6 a.m., something woke him up and he opened his eyes again and he didn't see Amy this time. So the balcony door was open and her cigarettes were out there. The shirt she'd had on was laying on the chair, and Ron thought like maybe she changed, left the room to get coffee, take pictures or something. Like maybe she's trying to get pictures of the sunrise. And Ron left the room and went to go look for her. I don't know if maybe he just like had a suspicion or something that something was wrong, like for him to go look, because this is like a huge cruise ship. So I feel like it would
Yeah.
be really hard to find her, but I don't know if he just had like an intuition where he was like, I need to go find Amy.
Yeah.
So Ron couldn't find her when he went up there. So he went back to the room and, told Iva and Brad like he couldn't find her. And this is when the cruise ship starts to arrive in Willemstad, Curacao. And now Amy's been missing for about an hour. So Ron and Iva went to guest relations about their missing daughter and asked like what can the cruise ship do? They asked for like a voice page like over the intercom system, but the man said no because that's too intrusive to the other guests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess because it was like 7 a.m. So like we might wake people up. We can't do that. I don't know. Um, and he said, why don't you go look around for like another half hour? If you don't find her, come back here and he'll get the security guard. And the ship had like 10 decks and was like 1,000 feet long. So like this is a lot of ship to cover. But now people everywhere are getting ready to get off the ship to go to Curacao. And eventually they did make a voiceover like asking Amy Bradley to meet the family at the desk.
So Iva was worried because they're still planning on like letting people off the boat, and like obviously they don't feel like they can let people off the boat when Amy's still missing because they're like, where is she? And now all these people are going to be leaving, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
not an ideal situation when someone is missing. But they did not stop anything. But at 9 a.m., the staff did a Charlie drill, which is basically like a bomb search drill. So they check every drawer, every closet, every inch of the ship. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and there were like 8 to 900 people doing it, which is an insane number of people. But I guess if you are searching every inch of this ship in that amount of time, like you kind of have to have that many people doing that.
Yeah. 10 decks
So,
and all these
yeah.
rooms and yeah.
Exactly. So the Bradleys were told to wait in their room while they searched, and the captain came in and said they did not find Amy. So there have been reports after that the Charlie drill wasn't run like fully properly, like maybe only the main spaces were searched, and the report about the Charlie drill did come from the cruise director. So,
Yeah, there's some
take it.
speculation about whether it was done correctly or not. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the employee side, they thought maybe she had gone overboard, either accidentally or on purpose. I mean, she was last seen on the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
So Curacao police were called immediately. They took boats and helicopters out looking, and the island has a very strong current. So if there's anything out here, like it's going to be brought close to shore. And it was the biggest search Curacao had ever had up to that point. The search grid was between Curacao and Aruba, and the Marines, the Navy, and the Venezuelan Coast Guard were all looking in that area, but they also focused heavily on the area near Curacao. So they believe that like she would have washed up if she had gone overboard, or at least her clothes, or like some sign of her, something.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like the current like
And
is
also,
very
they were only
strong.
like an hour out from like docking, which I feel like
Yeah.
it makes me think of like when you're flying and it's like when you're that close, you're really just like circling until you get to the
Yeah.
area. You're not still like I mean, you might be like a couple miles out, but usually like an hour out, like you're getting very close
You're pretty
where,
close.
yeah.
Yeah. So the chief of police was convinced that if she had fallen off, again, like we said, especially about an hour from docking, she would have washed up. There are sharks in the water, but like sharks don't particularly like humans. So like you hear of cases where they'll eat like an arm or a leg, but sharks aren't typically like consuming an entire human body where there would be like
Hmm.
no remains left, you know?
Yeah, I basically saw this, and I don't even know if it's still true. I saw this program somewhere, maybe the aquarium, maybe I saw it on TV, I don't know. But that basically, like when sharks bite humans, it's because they're looking up and we look like seals,
Mm,
which is something
yeah.
they eat. And then
Hmm.
once they taste us, they're like, that tastes bad.
Yep.
And like, that's why obviously people do die from like shark attacks, but that's why a lot of
Hmm.
times it's like you lose an arm or a leg, but
Yeah.
it's not like Jaws where they're like
It's
hunting a human to go
yeah.
eat.
It's a single bite that obviously can be deadly, but it's not like a repeated attack, you know?
Yeah, they're not like
Yeah.
they're not like yay yummy snack. They're like, ugh, this is disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. So the cruise ship left Curacao at 5 or 6 p.m. And basically, like, the cruise just went on, like, even though Amy is missing. But news did get back to America very quickly. News stations all over are reporting about her being missing. Her friends back home, are hearing about this. They're freaking out, wondering what happened. And while cruise ships can seem very safe, they do have their own sense of danger. So not just from falling overboard, but like crime happening on the ship. I mean, you have a lot of people in a
Mm-hmm.
not very, I mean, a big space, but like not a big space for that number of people. Like
Yeah.
crime is going to happen, you know? And since 2000, there have been over 200 people that have disappeared from cruise ships, and that fact itself was from a few years ago, so it could be a little higher now, even.
Yeah, which made me think, I don't know if you saw this. This was last year, maybe. Did you see about the influencer couple who were like on the cruise ship with their kids? Did you see about this?
The ones that left them in the,
And FaceTimed the baby
yes,
monitors. All I
yes,
could think about was that, where I'm like,
yeah,
and that she posted it is like, here's a tip if you're on a cruise ship, just FaceTime the baby monitors while you go eat
mm-hmm,
your dinner. And I'm like, that is so far away if something happens.
exactly,
But also like hearing stuff like this and hearing like how dangerous it can be.
mm-hmm.
Like y'all are wild.
Like, I just cannot. It's one thing if you're like, oh, we're gonna sit outside our room and eat dinner, and we're within like ear, like
Yeah, they
listening
like had them
distance.
probably three, four decks down, and we're just like, well,
Ugh,
also, I'm like, you do not have enough good cell service to
right?
know if it's accurate. But also, I'm just like, I don't know. If you want to go on a cruise ship and you just want to eat dinner at whatever time, whatever, they are influencers who made plenty of money. Don't take your
Mm-hmm.
kids on the cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. Or take a nanny with you to watch them the whole time. Which did you see too? They like came back after and they were like, oh, like we had people in the
There
room.
was
And
a
it's like, no, no,
misunderstanding.
that's
There
not
was
what you
someone in the
said.
room, and I'm like, you're lying.
Yeah. Like, why would
You're
you
trying to
say
save
this is a
face
hack?
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it just made me think of that when I was like hearing and like we'll get a little bit more into like kind of how dangerous like cruises can be,
Hmm.
but I'm like I was just thinking about that like y'all are wild.
Yeah. And it's like, even if like you do see something happening on the FaceTime, how long is it going to take you to get to your children?
But like I don't know what would be in their crib that they would be choking on, but like or if they even started crying, like it's gonna take you
Hmm.
probably 5 minutes to get down there. Like
Exactly.
y'all.
And like I want to say too, their kids were like a little bit older where it's like they might be able to climb out of their crib and then what?
Yeah, I feel like they
Like I want to say they were like toddler age and not like baby
yeah,
baby.
it was like they're like 3 and 2 or
Yeah, like those
something
kids
like
can
that.
climb out
Like
of cribs. Like
hmm
yeah,
yeah.
not a good look. Yeah.
Not a hack. Don't do that, guys.
Yeah,
Don't
do
do
not
it.
do that. Watch your children with your own
Yeah.
eyeballs or from a monitor from
Whether
the
you
room
were
next
on a
door.
cruise ship, whether you were at a restaurant,
Yes.
the amount of times I actually just pulled up to a place the other day that was like it was like a bar brewery, but it was more bar feel. So I was like, why are
Hmm.
the children here? Anyway, but they were running around outside and I literally almost ran in front of my car while I was
Oh my
pulling up. And
gosh.
I'm like, I can't meet the people I'm meeting here. If I hit a kid, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to turn around and go home. It's so embarrassing. Gonna have to never see him again. But I'm also just like, what in the world? Because I could see the parents sitting there and the kids just like out of sight, running
Yeah.
around while everyone's just like drinking. And I'm like, can we not?
Yeah.
Can we
Yes.
not?
General PSA. Please
Just
supervise your children.
just supervise them. I'm not
Yeah.
saying don't bring them. I'm just saying like
Don't let
I'm
them
not
run
saying
out in
they
front of the
can't run
car.
around, but like have it to a confined space,
Hmm.
you know?
Yes. Yes.
Not where the cars are driving in.
No, definitely not. So back to cruise ships and how all of this is going to work with crime. Once you're about 12 miles offshore, it does become international waters, which see our Patreon episode about modern day pirates if you want to learn more about that and how that plays into
Yeah.
pirates. So the closest thing to police on a cruise ship is the security crew. So, this is not great because they are hired by the cruise line. So if anything happens, they are wanting to protect the cruise line.
Yeah,
So,
they're not like I mean, we can get to the fact that the police are never objective, but they
yeah.
still have like, okay, we can't let this get out so the cruise doesn't get
Hmm.
bad PR. That's their main
Hmm.
goal.
Yeah. So, cruises are basically like small cities, like you got to be careful to like not let your guard down. And if like something happens, US detectives are thousands of miles away. Like they're not going to be able to help you. There is an FBI field office on St. Thomas. So this is where Aaron Sheridan and Victor McCollum worked. And so they heard about this situation and decided to get involved. So the cruise was going to dock next at St. Martin. So officers flew from St. Thomas to St. Martin. And at St. Martin, they don't dock, but they anchor at sea and like run little dinghies from the cruise ship to the shore versus docking on the shore. So they hopped on a dinghy to go back to the cruise. And one officer said the boat looked like it was like rolling up the Empire State Building because it was like so tall. Like it's just like this massive ship.
Like just thinking about like pulling up to it and you're just like, that's how tall it
Yeah.
feels. Like,
Yeah. So they looked at the Bradley's cabin. It was very small. It showed no signs of a struggle. It had been cleaned before the FBI was able to get on board, which is not great. So now any possible evidence was gone. So the railing on the balcony is pretty tall, but it is a straight drop. And Amy's shoes were on the balcony, put nicely next to the table, and the table had been pushed up against the glass of the balcony. So kind of weird, but they also don't know if it was just moved around from the cleaning crew. Like, who knows? I mean, her dad may have been like moving things as he was just, where is
it
she?
could
Did
have
she
been the
leave
boat just
anything?
moving. Also, I don't know
Yeah,
how
that's
heavy
true.
or light the table is, if it could have
Yeah,
moved, you know.
that's true. So FBI agents are now speaking to the family. So they started speaking to them as a group, but then they also interviewed them individually. Of course, you have to treat them all as suspects in the beginning, but they didn't really find any family member that seemed to be like a possible culprit here. So the evidence they do have are the electronic records of the key cards for the cabin. So they know Amy was in her room at approximately 3:40 a.m. And this is the only true fact that they have. Like this is the only like documented. This is what time she was in her room. So her dad saw her on the balcony at 5:30 a.m. and then at 6 a.m. she wasn't. So we're like, okay, between that 30-minute time frame, something happened to Amy. And the ship did have a few security cameras, but they're mostly in like the common areas. So there's a lot of areas that are not covered. So it wouldn't be unusual to not see her on the cameras, even if she was up and moving around, but they did not find her on any of the footage. So with the FBI now on board, rumors start circulating very quickly. So some hear that she died by suicide. Some people heard that she like saw the lights of Curacao. So some people say she saw the lights of Curacao and said she could like beat it to shore and like tried to swim, which feels very irrational. That doesn't seem
Also,
like
I'm like,
something.
this is a theory, but I'm like, she was alone on the balcony last time. So I'm like, who's she saying? I can
Yeah,
beat the ship. Like, who's she gonna prove that to? Like, the
exactly,
rumors were
exactly.
wild.
Yeah. So some say she was drugged and someone abducted her, and then rumors like start turning more to like foul play. So everyone is claiming to have seen her, as tends to happen in situations like this. So Breitag, Wayne Breitag was a passenger staying in the room next to the Bradleys. So he said he did see her that night at the disco. He said he like went up and just observed. And Iva said that Wayne would come out on the balcony and there was like a little partition and he would like try to lean over it to talk to Amy. They kind of found him a little odd. Iva said he would like stay on the balcony most nights until, or did Wayne say that? I don't know. Someone said that. So he said he would stay on the balcony most nights until like 3 to 4 a.m. He said he and Amy did talk earlier on the trip. They talked about how Amy was like a good athlete. She had just graduated college and was getting a good new job. And Wayne was alone on this cruise, so he liked being alone and was taking this cruise alone. He said he was back in the room probably around 2:30 a.m. and he didn't remember hearing anything. So the people in the room on the other side of Wayne's said that the night she disappeared, right after she disappeared, his radio or TV was like at a very high level. Like there was a lot of like noise coming from his room from something. They could also hear him like talking over the loud sound, but they thought that was odd since he was there alone. So they searched his room but found like no signs of Amy. And another rumor is that Amy was trying to climb over the balcony to Wayne's balcony and fell. So Wayne's like, I mean, people can say that, but I had nothing to do with Amy's disappearance. Like, I don't know anything. So kind of seems like an odd person who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, because he was interviewed in like the documentary and he was like, because they asked him, like, oh,
Hmm.
people say this. And he's like, yeah, people can say that, but doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's true. Like, I'm not gonna say that happened because like I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah. Like people also said that she saw the island and was like, "Oh, I can beat the ship and swim faster than the boat can go." Like,
Yeah.
what?
It's all
People say a lot of
speculation at this
things.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people went around putting missing signs on the door with Amy's picture. And Chris Fenwick, who was another passenger, saw the picture and then remembered seeing Amy because we did have the voiceover of like Amy Bradley, come meet your family, but most of the passengers don't really know who she is, what she looks like, any of that. So until these like missing pictures go up on the doors, do people then start being like, oh, I know who she is now. So Chris said she was the life of the party and had this like magnetic magic bubble around her. Like everyone noticed her when she like walked into the room. And this is also the first most passengers actually heard about the missing girl, and but didn't know her face and stuff, like I was saying. So Chris remembers they had been filming the night she went missing. So he was working for a company that had also sent like high performers on a cruise. So his job was to edit a little like highlights reel. So he was supposed to go and like record. So he'd been there, at the disco and different stuff like that, filming. And so Chris decided to go through his box of tapes. He finds her on the tapes eventually and sees her dancing with Yellow. So Yellow was a bass player who played on the pool deck, and he also found a second shot of her dancing with Yellow. And if you remember, Amy had told Brad like the bass player had hit on her. So this is kind of lining up with that.
Hmm.
So his real name was Alistair Douglas, but he went by Yellow because he dyed his hair yellow a lot, and that's just kind of the nickname he got. So then the head of security on the boat called Chris and asked for his master tapes since they knew he was filming. But Chris is like, I don't give anybody my master tapes. No, 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 no. I don't do that. I'm keeping the originals.
Yeah. No, no.
And he did make a copy of it and gave it to the FBI. I have heard, I don't know if it's true. I heard on some other sources. It's so hard because it's like there's a lot of sources before this documentary came out, and I don't know what's true and what was kind of
Hmm.
like put to rest with this documentary. But some people said that, like, head of security on the boat asked for the master tapes, and then he also made a copy and gave it to them. And then, like, no one ever told the Bradley family that these videos existed. Like, there was a gap in
Mm.
knowing they existed, which could have,
Yeah.
again, led to kind of cover up. So just some speculation around that happening, but Chris did keep his master's and made a copy and gave it to someone else because he was like, I think he was like, if the FBI wants my master's, maybe we'll talk, but head of
Hmm.
security, no.
No. Yeah.
So another passenger, Lori Thompson, also remembered seeing Amy from the poster. So Lori and her friend had seen Amy, and she stood out to Lori because she said there weren't a lot of young people on the boat. She was like, it was a lot of like older people, so you remembered kind of all the young people on the boat. And Lori and Amy had talked, and Lori and her friend went back to the room after the club closed, but they weren't sleepy, so they decided to go hang out on the top deck. I think they were also hanging like there with her parents or whatever. So when you're in that tight cabin, you're probably like, if I can't sleep, I don't want to stay in here. I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah. Sit here in the dark while everyone else is sleeping. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the 90s before cell phones, you couldn't even scroll on TikTok.
Yeah.
No.
Like, what are you gonna do?
No.
Read with a flashlight? I mean,
Yeah, no. Um, So, sometime between 5 and 6 a.m., Lori remembers seeing Amy with Yellow in a glass elevator. And that elevator went up to the nightclub, even though it was closed. And it was a well-lit elevator, so she could tell it was the bass player and Amy. So they took the elevator and exited. And then 10 to 15 minutes later, Lori saw Yellow coming from the front of the boat. He didn't say anything to them and walked past, like, quickly alone. And Lori thought it was weird because he had tried to talk to them at the night, like, in the nightclub. So they were like, that's weird that like he was talking to us. We see him with this girl and now he's just like rushing past us, not talking to us. So this could be very significant and confirming Amy left the room, if that's possible. And it's kind of lining up with this possible timeline. Again, back before cell phones, so they're kind of estimating on time. And the door lock data only says when people enter the cabin, but not when they leave it. So we can see when they put their key card in and enter, but as far as leaving, we don't really know. So FBI is now wondering about Yellow. They asked him questions and he was polygraphed. He admitted that he knew Amy and flirted with her. And he said he did that often. Like he was like, I'll be flirty with passengers, I'm sure a lot of them like the not Amy per se, but you know what I mean? Like you're one of the performers. You're like, I gotta have
Yeah,
people have a good time. Like we're gonna go flirt and we're gonna compliment all the guests so that people want to come back on another cruise.
exactly. Yeah.
But he was like, it had nothing to do with her disappearance. And the polygraph results were not conclusive. So, and we know polygraphs are, I don't know if there was an anxiety because you're also being interviewed by the FBI, if there is a language barrier because I don't believe English was his first language, all of that. It's also difficult because there's no way of confirming if the time was right when Lori and her friends saw Amy in yellow that night. There isn't any like concrete evidence of this time. It could have been a different time. We don't really know. He was very bothered that he was suspected. Um, we just don't know if that's because he was innocent or because he was guilty, but he was very upset that he was considered a suspect. So the FBI is kind of running out of time because the cruise is going to be over soon. This is a 7-day cruise. They're already halfway through it. And the next place they were docking was St. Thomas. Iva did have friends reach out who said it might be too hard for them to dock in Puerto Rico because without Amy, that's going to be really hard. So the Bradley family did decide to fly out of St. Thomas on March 27th to head home. Obviously, they don't want to be on this cruise ship anymore. Um, and Iva said it was really hard because they felt like they were leaving her and they were like, felt very guilty about that. Ron also told a story where he said, like, the flight back, he was like, it was some of the worst turbulence like he's ever experienced on a plane. And he was like, but I just didn't even care because he's like, what does it
Yeah.
matter if like Amy's not here? Like, you know,
Yeah.
so just really sad. And they did have a vigil back home to get together and pray that Amy would be found. And Iva said it took a few days to eat or even speak normally, but after that, they just went into high gear. They were like, took a few days and then they're like, we have to get going to find Amy. So they created a command center to reach out to every authority they could, hotlines, contact media, just do everything they can to get Amy's name out there and get as much information going as possible. So on April 17th, the Bradleys went back down to Curacao to hold a press conference. They talked about what happened in their experience, and there was a reward that had been raised that was up to $260,000, which is about $518,000 today. Like $500,000
Wow.
is a pretty good reward for
Yeah.
somebody to get.
Yeah.
And they were also trying to continue to raise money for that reward as well. So that might not even been like the most they could. And Brad, even in the interview, just begged and was like, you know what, just drop her somewhere safe, like blindfold her. We won't ask questions. We won't look for you. Like, we just want her back. We don't care what happened up until this point. Just bring her back to us.
Yeah.
And in Curacao, after their interview, a taxi driver named Deshi came up to the family. He had one of the missing flyers in his hand and asked Ron if he was the father of Amy. So he pulled Ron to the side and said, I want you to know your daughter did not fall from the ship. Your daughter did not jump from the ship, and your daughter was not thrown from the ship. She's on this island, and I hope you can find her. So Deshi said Amy came up to his cab and she was a little frantic. He said he would never forget her green eyes and that she was wearing a white top with jeans. And this did line up with what Amy was last seen missing because she had a white top on under the yellow shirt she took off, and a pair of her jeans were missing. So they were like, this is pretty credible, sighting of her. And
Mhm.
she told Deshi she needed to use a phone. So he pointed her in the directions of the phones, but Amy went the other way.
So this was the Bradleys' like first reporting that there's a possibility that Amy was alive. So Deshi told them to go to Coral Cliffs, which is a resort, and Kadushi Cliffs. So he said, go there, don't talk to anyone, just look and observe. So they met John Mintar with Harbor Police, and John went with them since the Bradleys were not familiar with the island. The island could be dangerous, so he didn't really want them to go alone. And the places that Deshi told them about were owned and controlled by different mafia groups. So a few had open water spots where they could come and go without detection, and a few places had landing strips that could be like where there was drug trafficking or sex trafficking. John said that Curacao is a very lovely island, but most crime is drug related due to the proximity to Venezuela. He said there is some sex work as well and possibly some sex trafficking. So they went down one road that led up to like a junkyard type thing. And there was one shack they went into, and Ron noticed some Tic Tacs on the bed. So Amy loved Tic Tacs. So Ron was wondering, like, did Amy bring them here? Ron said he was looking for signs anywhere, and Brad said they were driving on these narrow roads, and he could have sworn he heard Amy saying Brad from a passing vehicle. Other people heard it too, like they turned and looked. They followed the car, and the car pulled over, and it was just like this old man by himself. So Amy was also featured on America's Most Wanted with John Walsh in December of 1998, and David Carmichael was watching and remembered something from August of 1998 when he was on vacation to Curacao for a diving trip. So David and his friends loved Porto Marie, and they kept going back there. It was like a locals area. It wasn't very touristy. It's like you kind of have to know like where to go and like plan to be going here. It's not really somewhere that you would just stumble upon. So David remembers coming out of the water and washing his equipment, and he saw three people walking toward him. So it was a guy, a girl in the middle, and then another person who looked like he was from the island. So as they come up closer, the girl came up to David. She was in good shape, she was tan, she was a smoker, and he saw a tattoo that looked like a Tasmanian devil. So David was about to say something, and then a man came out and like stared at him and motioned her away. And David said that the man like staring at him just kind of like triggered something in his brain to like think like this is kind of odd, like I'm going to remember this
Mm-hmm.
situation. So now David is 100% sure that the tattoos and piercings on the woman he saw were the same and matched Amy's. David told the FBI about his sighting and the people that he saw with her at that time. He also recognized the guy who had stared at him for a long time as Alistair Douglas, or Yellow. So now the FBI has two separate instances of people saying they saw Amy. So we have the taxi driver, and then we also have David Carmichael. So they're wondering now, like, if this is true, then Amy walked off the ship or was smuggled off of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And all of her friends believed that Amy was a fighter, and if someone was trying to take her off the boat, that she would fight back. She was strong, but she was small, and she could have been put into something. Again, they let people leave, right after she went missing. So could she have been in a suitcase or something like that that someone took off the ship with them? And if she was normally a fighter, that could change if she had been drugged.
Yeah, you can't. You're kind of out. If you're drugged,
Yeah,
you don't really have a choice in if you can fight or not most of the time.
yeah.
So,
So there's also another detail about Amy that we have not disclosed yet. So during college, Amy came out as gay to her close friends, and Amy did have a girlfriend named Kat Lovelace, and Amy asked her friend Sarah to help her tell her parents. Amy was really scared and she didn't want to disappoint them. Kat said Amy was just like so close with her family that they were just so tight. Like they're just the kind of people that just like loved so hard and just, really got along together and were always doing things together.
yeah, I feel like everyone like who was like knew the family, friends of the family, friends of Amy were like, we've never seen a family so close. Like they
Yeah.
were super tight knit.
Well, I mean, they're also on a family vacation with two like young 20s children, which I feel like shows a lot that it's a tight-knit family. It's
Yeah.
like they're not forced to be there. Like they're
Yeah,
adults.
they
They could be
wanted to
like,
be
yeah,
there.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said that Ron and Iva didn't miss a single sports events. Like they were just like very involved parents. And Amy told her parents about her and Kat specifically, and her parents were not happy. They were surprised and disappointed. Ron actually wrote a 3-page letter to Kat about how he felt and the ways in which he was disappointed. And Ron said in the documentary that it was Amy's life and it just wasn't what they would have chosen for her, but they loved her unconditionally. And Ron said he put all of that in the letter as well. But this did put a strain on Kat and Amy, and Kat thinks Amy started drinking to numb a lot of her feelings. So Iva said as parents, they were very concerned in 1995 that those feelings would not be welcomed by the general population. So obviously, even today, many people find it difficult to be open about their true sexuality, and in 1995, it was a lot harder. So not to excuse her parents' reaction, but again, to add context and, remember that it has been 30 years since then.
Hmm.
So,
And also, I think, they may have not been happy with her choice or whatever, but they didn't like cut her off. Like they still
yeah,
loved
they
her.
were
They just
still on a
didn't
family
love.
vacation together.
Yeah. So I think it was just one of those things that, like, especially in today's age, some people, not all people, there's still a very large chunk of people who are like, yeah, they should feel that way. But, a lot of times we get highly critical of this. And, like, it does suck that they weren't just like, we love you no matter what, which they kind of did. But, just to add more context that it was like
Hmm.
a different time and they did still love her. They just weren't very like happy about this in general.
Yeah. So the Bradleys were open from the beginning to investigators about her relationship and some challenges that she had. And the FBI did a lot of interviews with friends and family. And a few of her friends did wonder if this was a death by suicide due to these challenges, but a lot of her friends and family members just think that there's no way. So Erin Sheridan, the FBI agent, doesn't believe the death by suicide either. So she thinks that Amy was happy and upbeat, and it seemed like her life was only getting better. The sightings also probably sway a lot of opinions because people are like, there seem to have been some credible
Hmm.
sightings. So like, how could we believe that she died by suicide? You know?
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people when they were hearing like, oh, her parents weren't approving of her, it was a like argument for the people who believed it could have been that, but then it was like,
Hmm.
well, other people are saying like her life is getting better. She has, all this stuff going for her. So it's
Yeah.
like with these sightings, it's kind of hard to, you know,
Yeah.
what I'm
To
trying to say.
think that that could be what happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And that is where we're going to stop part one. So, as we mentioned, this is a two-part episode. It was a little too lengthy for one episode, so we are
Especially
going
kind of
to,
with some of the discussion
yeah,
I knew we were going to have and kind of the commentary I knew was going to get added. I was like, this could be one part, but it's going to be kind of long. So let's
it'll be a
split it
long
up.
one part.
So,
Yes.
when you do your hour walk or something, you can
Yep.
listen to one episode and not be like, have leftover.
Yes. Perfect. So yeah, obviously we'll wait until next episode to, discuss more about thoughts about what happened because clearly there is a lot more information left. We have a whole other episode to get you caught up to what we currently know about Amy Bradley. So yeah, so tune in for that next time. And before then, Courtney, what is your perk of the week?
So my perk of the week is that I got to go with my mom and Jacqueline to
That's
Dirty
also my
Dancing
perk of the
concert.
week.
I had a feeling. So basically it was like they played the movie and they had like a band that was playing like all the music that was played during it. And then at the end they kind of like did a little concert where like they played all the music again. But it
Hmm.
was just very fun and just, just a very good movie that
Yeah.
I still really enjoy watching. And it was just fun, different kind of way to watch it. So
Yeah, like we didn't really know what to expect because we're like, okay, like
yeah.
Dirty Dancing in concert. Like we know
What
the
does that
movie is
mean?
shown. We know there's like a band, but like how does this work? And like we said, if you weren't as like familiar with the movie, like there were some parts where the audio was a little hard to hear because there was a live band. Like it wasn't excessive. Like you could still,
Yeah.
pick up on it. But I mean, I kind of had the whole movie memorized, so it was like, that's okay. I know what they're saying anyway. But it was, I feel like most people there obviously are very familiar with the movie. I don't think this was your first experience. We also
Hmm.
got to sit next to some lovely ladies who were very vocal during the entire
They
movie.
were having a time, but then they left after the movie and didn't stay for the concert. I'm like, you could have
Yes.
just watched the movie at home.
I know, I'm like you could have watched it at home. I don't understand. And I thought the concert was really fun because they did like all the songs, but
Yeah.
it was more like upbeat and like they were dancing and it was, a
Hmm.
little more lively experience. And you got like the full song versus obviously in a movie, like not every song is played from beginning to
And you
end.
got
You
to
have like
like
snippets.
sing along too, because it was
Yeah,
like a concert. So you got to get up and stand up and like
exactly.
sing and kind of different stuff like that versus,
Yeah.
trying to watch a movie that has just music in it. So,
Exactly. Like no one's gonna be singing during the movie because then again you also can't hear the movie. So
yeah.
trying to
There were
yes,
no
yeah.
subtitles. You didn't know what was happening.
Exactly. We gotta have our subtitles, which we did get a comment about the subtitles. So on YouTube maybe?
Oh, about turning them on?
Yeah, someone commented about like not using subtitles. So
Oh, I did see that comment.
I was trying to remember like I can't remember exactly what they said
They
about
said
it,
they have
but
like they don't like subtitles because they have an issue with reading or something. So they're like, I
something
don't
like
even
that.
want
Yeah, like
to,
it's
which
too
I
much
do.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
makes
get
sense.
that.
Yeah.
I know people can get very distracted by, which I get too. It does suck sometimes when the subtitles are ahead. So
Yes, and you
you
read it
can't watch
before it
like a
happens.
comedy special with subtitles on because then you get the punchline
You get
before
the
it
punchline
happens. But
early. Yeah.
yeah,
That's true. That's true. But yeah, it was a really fun experience and it was fun to do. It was in the Tennessee Theater, so you get the beautiful
always a beautiful place. Yeah.
setting and all the fun music and just getting to see a movie that like age-wise, did not hold up as far as their ages, but other than that, I think everything stands.
Yeah,
All
because
holds
I
up
was talking
well.
about this with like my mom and my dad too, because I mean, obviously their age discrepancy is a little, which I don't actually know though, because she's graduated high school, so I don't really know.
But they say she's 16, right?
Yeah, so that's why I'm confused, because she's like, I'm about to go to college, I'm about to go to the Peace Corps, but then she's 16. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's very weird, but I do understand like the whole like age discrepancy that's a little
Hmm.
dicey, but like my
But it
dad
also
was
took place in the
saying,
60s. I mean,
yeah,
it's a very different,
because
yeah.
my dad was saying too, it was like made in like the 80s, I think,
Hmm.
about like the 60s,
Hmm.
and he was like, so it's kind of like about a time like before, so it kind of has that a little bit of timelessness because of that, because it wasn't like
Hmm.
it was like replicating a time before and not trying to be
Hmm.
like right then. But I mean, they talk about like abortion and
Hmm.
all like they talk about kind of some hot topics. So,
Yeah.
like class
Hmm.
differences and stuff, you know. So kind of
It
just
holds
some hot
up. Like I said,
topics.
if
Yeah,
you ignore the age difference between the two, it holds up.
yeah,
I mean, stand by it. Solid movie. Great soundtrack also. So,
great
the
song.
concert is a fantastic piece. Yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was super fun. But sorry to steal your perk of the week. So do I need
No,
to
I was
ask you
like,
what your perk of the week is, or
nope,
just do
that
like a
was our
joint perk of the
joint
week?
perk of the week. It's so
Yes.
cute when we do that. I love it. Anyway, we're just on the same page. That was our
Yes.
perk of the week.
Our perk of the
Um,
week.
Tell us your perks of the week. Do you have a joint perk of the week? Have you seen Dirty Dancing in concert or any other movies like this? Like, do they do this for any other movies? I don't know. Tell
The only
me.
other thing I've like known of and also seen, I did see it once, was they did like Harry Potter with like an orchestra.
Oh yeah, you did
But
mention
that's
that. Yeah.
very different because it's not like Harry Potter doesn't have like contemporary, not contemporary, but like known songs playing. Like it's just
Yeah.
a score that was made for the
Uh-huh.
movie. So it's a little bit different because it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, you know.
But
But
kind of the same
yeah,
concept.
I'm wondering, I'm like, why don't other like could you imagine well, I guess Mamma Mia wouldn't be fun because the fun of it's like Meryl Streep singing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm like, other movies I feel like could do this, but maybe they do. I don't know. Let us know if you know of some.
Yeah. Maybe we'll keep an eye out and see if we see of any
Pop
others.
up.
And
Yeah.
yeah. We mentioned YouTube earlier, so if you want to leave us positive comments on YouTube, we got quite a few recently, and most were positive, so that was super
Most were
exciting.
positive.
Maybe
Yes.
something's sticking when we do these roundups at the end.
Yeah.
So leave us a positive comment, 5-star rating, thumbs up, whatever on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all those places. Most important place, of course, is patreon.com/caffeinated crimes, where you can support our lovely little podcast for as little as $3 a month. We just released a bonus episode last week, all about children, the missing children posters being on milk cartons and why that started and who the first cases were that were covered on milk cartons. So if you want to hear about that, if you want to hear our other, goodness, what, almost 60 bonus episodes,
A lot.
yeah. We got some videos. We have pins and stickers we want to give you guys. You can chat with us on Discord. We have all kinds of fun things happening over there. So come join us.
Yes, that would be great. Um, I think we said 5 stars and all the places. Like, you
Yep.
know our spiel. You have it memorized at this point. So
Yep.
why don't you just go have a cup of coffee?
And don't commit a crime.